Howdy folks, Elcrex here, and welcome to Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 73. And today we're going to be talking about another experimental mech from the Draconius Combined, the Daboku. Now, Daboku is a 90-ton mech that was put out by the Draconius Combined as they sat there and tried to figure out how to make a new mech. And this is what they came up with. And from the history of it, it was a disaster. And it was later gone through more reworking, and it became the Mauler, which is a much better mech, but it's because of the 3050 tech that came about that improved it. But this was the first one that started using some slightly more advanced technology, but still failed. Now, the Daboku is a 90-ton mech. It's running around 1300 battle value. Alright, it carries a 3-5 movement and a 0 for the jump jets, doesn't have any. Has 12 heat sinks. Has 152 points of armor, which is way short of the around 300 that it can carry. And it has an assortment of weapons. It has two large lasers, one in each arm. Has two LRM-10s, one in each torso, right and left. Carries 1 ton of ammo for each. And 4 AC-2s. 2 in the right torso, 2 in the left torso with a ton of ammo each. And case for that explosive things that could happen when you're carrying around ammo. Which is alright, that's pretty decent. It's something that's very handy. Because the number of times you take a hit in a torso and you go kaboom and the whole mech goes exploding. This is the first time we get to see anything with case that's more advanced, blowout panel, so when it goes off, the explosive force takes out that torso and then leaves the mech still standing. So if you have ammo elsewhere and other weapons, so you say lose the right torso or left torso, you still keep going. Unfortunately, well, basically this mech's kind of a disaster, like I said. Now, I've never used the Daboku. I've used the Mauler many times. Let's just look at this thing, because of the short expanse life of this thing. The biggest problem this mech has is heat sinks. It has 12. And the first thing that if anybody says, well, 12 heat sinks, oh, that's not so bad. Don't fire your energy weapons, pretty much, because you're carrying 2 large lasers, and that's 16 heat. And if you walk, that's 17. If you run, that's 18. So immediately, if you fire the 2 large lasers and you do any type of movement, you're already up 5. So then suddenly you're a 2-3 moving mech. Alright, you can do that for a turn, and then you have to shut everything completely off to cool off, pretty much. Or just fire your AC-2s. Now, the other aspect of this thing, alright, it's more of a support mech. It's not a frontline mech, and the way I look at those medium or the large lasers, those are a ditch effort. When something gets in close, you basically got one weapon. Be honest with you, one turn you can fire, and the next thing you know, you're basically moving around as a really slow mech that can't do anything. Now, the other weapon system. So if you're going to use it as a fire support mech, you're sitting there with 12 heat sinks. All right, that's not bad for the other weapons. So you have 2 LRM-10s and 4 AC-2s. That adds up to a whopping 12 heat. So the only time you're going to heat up is if you do any type of movement. So if you're parked someplace and you're now moving and you're just doing fire support from, say, a wood hex or something that's sitting up on a hilltop, and you're just racking away with the LRMs and the AC-2s, you're not going to heat up. You're right at that threshold where you don't do anything. Now, if you walk, you go up 1. If you run, you go up 2. And if you run, you can do that for 2 turns, and you're going to have to shut something off. And okay, that's not a big issue, but put it bluntly, you're going to be firing probably 1 less LRM. And with LRM-10s, those are not really, as I like to say, really high in damage, because typically when you're going to roll, you're lucky if you're going to do 6 points of damage. And it's more or less you're going to have other mechs. The way I would use it, like the Mauler, is if you're sitting there in a fire support mode, you got other mechs in front of you that are tearing armor off, and this guy is just sitting way back and plinking away, because the damage output of this thing is a possible 28 at long range. That's not bad, but you're not going to be doing that every turn. No, just plain and simple. You're lucky if you're going to be doing typically maybe 20 or less. You know, you're not going to hit with all the AC2s. You're not going to hit with the LRMs. If you do, the average roll is going to decrease the amount of damage you're going to do with those things, because you're not going to be maximizing 10-point shots. It's 5 and 5 every time, because the odds are with an average of a 2d6 is a 7, and obviously on that scale you're going to get maybe 6. Okay, now another drawback with this thing is that if I see a mech like this, what are you going to do? I know it doesn't have a lot of armor, so the best thing to do is taking this thing out is just taking some light mechs, get in really close and fast, and get within its minimum range with most of those weapons, so it's stuck with just that large laser or two to fire, because it's going to have so many modifiers to shoot something up close. And if it's a light mech, it's going to have more modifiers, so it's probably just going to be firing downrange, and then that light mech is just going to slowly eat it up. And it's basically taking a mech out that can't really fight back. Or it could try to get in real close and then fire a large laser and then punch with the other arm, or do a kick and hope that it connects on a light mech. But the odds are you're probably going to use that light mech to move last, to hopefully maneuver and get in behind this thing and get in behind it and, you know, hit it in its weaker areas in the rear armor. So in a way, it's like most fire support mechs. You get in its face, it has a hard time handling anything in its face, basically, because of all the minimum ranges that you have with the weapon systems on this thing. Now, if I was going to change this mech at all, the one thing I would think about doing is probably downgrade one of those large lasers to a medium laser, so it has a large and a medium, and then either add more armor and heat sinks, probably heat sinks to help a little bit with the in-close fighting to some extent. But you could get by with a large laser and a medium laser with the 12 heat sinks, because you could fire one and then fire the other at the same time and then walk, and that gives you a 12. So you could put more armor on this thing. Alright, that's another option that you could do, because the way it is right now, the two large lasers are pretty much worthless firing them together, because as I said before, all it's going to do is just cause havoc for you and turn your mech into a sauna bath. So that's pretty much what you can do with this thing. And when it comes time for when we get into the 3050 tech books and above, we'll delve into the Mauler and break it down. But that's pretty much what the Daboku is. It's a good fire support mech that, if you can get it into a position where you can fire at longer ranges and plink away, because I don't know what it is about the AC2, is that it always seems to find that center torso with a chance of critical. Don't know what it is. It's like a magnet or something. And in a number of games where I've taken mechs out by blowing out engines and gyros with an AC2, over the years, it's like you can't count. I don't know what it is about the AC2. It's just like it's a sable dart that just punches right through armor. or it finds that one hatch that some tech forgot to shut completely, and it just worms its way in. Don't know what it is, but it just seems to happen that way. And that's the thing in a nutshell. It's not a bad mech for a big giant pig that it is. It could be better. I understand the whole concept of it. You know, with the AC-2s, it's just a long-range fire support mech that just sits there and plinks away repeatedly. It's like a giant machine gun at extreme cost of tonnage, but it gets the job done. Alright, so if you've used the Daboku, let me know if you have any experiences with it. I got a lot of experience with the Mauler, which is it's the next gen of this chassis, and where they renamed it. So if you got anything, put it down below, like and subscribe, and we'll talk with you later. Elk Rex out.